You're listening to an Aidyn Books podcast.
Welcome to Parenting and Bonding with Children's Books. Each Tuesday in our Facebook community, we go live to chat with a children's book author about the magic of books. Each book and author was chosen with you and your children in mind. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's Author Spotlight. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Parenting and Bonding with Children's Books, the podcast. This is the second episode of our live video podcast. The awesomeness about a live podcast viewing is we can take questions at the end and continue even after it's over. So if you have any questions for Ginny, leave them in the comments and we'll make sure we get to them. This podcast will show live to our group members and then release to other platforms to try to reach as many parents as possible. You're the only ones to catch it live. Our podcast purpose and message is simple. Books can transform homes and strengthen our bonds with our children. The podcast was created to spotlight authors behind the books that make this magic happen and to provide parents with a behind-the-scenes look of the intention of the author and hopefully leave you empowered to up your game with reading time. So this episode, we are joined by the author who wrote Rise Up. Welcome, Ginny Ellsworth.
Thank you, Quinn. I'm so excited to be on your podcast, and I'm so excited to continue to listen to this podcast. I think that this is such a powerful avenue.
Thank you so much, Ginny. I'm so excited to have you here. Your book, I've been talking about it in the group all week. And even before that, I did a live just about your book and how it saved me and Aidyn from a meltdown during virtual school. So having you on a podcast was only natural so that I could share that with everybody else.
I love it. It. Thank you. Mission accomplished.
Yes. Thank you all so much for watching. So let me tell you a little bit about Ginny. She's a devoted writer and storyteller. Creating children's books that empower our little ones is one of her greatest passions. She draws from her own life experiences, and she's produced stories about family, diversity, and mindfulness. Ginny, tell us a little more about yourself.
So, man, where to start? I have been writing for a really long time. Most of my background is in magazines, and I love interviewing people and telling other people's stories. And Quinn, it's really only been recently in the last couple of years that I've started to use my own story to help other people. So I have actually 2 children's books. Rise Up was my second. My first is Magic Kids, and we can talk about that one on a different episode. But I was finding these kind of gaps in, you always talk about using stories as a tool. Yeah. And I was finding these gaps, like seeing my friends who are moms and my nephews and kids whose lives I'm involved in. And I was seeing where something was missing. Yeah. And found a way to tell a story or translate something that I experienced into something that they can understand. And that's how Rise Up came to be. It's a meditation that I was doing daily, that I brought it. It was helping me a lot, and I saw a huge need for it, and brought it down to the kids level. So anyway, I got off on a tangent there, but I am originally from Nashville, Tennessee, living in Houston, Texas, and on my way to live by the ocean in Florida. And I'm very excited about that. But storytelling is my greatest passion, and it takes it to a new level when you're telling stories that empower and inspire other people, no matter what age they are.
Yes, that's so good. Thank you, Ginny. Learned so much already about the book and what went into it. That's awesome. So you talked a little bit about meditation and using your own life experience to write this book. And let me just, this is the book right here that we're talking about. And you guys in the group, you've seen it before because this book is powerful and it impacted our lives in such a big way. You told how you came up with the idea. What was your writing process for the book like?
So it's interesting. I wrote Rise Up and I did it. I work very closely with my illustrator, Lisa Wee, and we do a lot of things going back and forth, but it always starts with the words. Mm-hmm. And then we'll go back and forth with some things and change a lot of illustrations and sometimes even tweak the words. But I always send her my first draft in a spreadsheet. So I have a spreadsheet of Rise Up and, each sentence. And it sat there for a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
And this was actually about this time last year. Mm-hmm. And it sat for a couple of months because I wasn't ready to really roll with it. And when I picked it back up 2 months later, I sat down and I rewrote the whole thing. Wow. And the first version, it didn't rhyme. It explained the same process that I go through in the book, but I had to get myself to a place where I was feeling balanced and centered. And it's not that I wasn't that the first draft, the first time I wrote it. But on the second draft, I had been consistently meditating in the morning. I had been reading things that were inspiring me. And I completely give that credit to being able to write something that describes a process in a way that rhymes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can tell when something rhymes and it flows and when somebody's trying to make it rhyme, just rhyme.
Yeah.
And I can't take credit for this. This one rhymes and it flows and I can't take credit for that. It just came to me.
That's so funny. You talk about having to feel centered before you put the book out. We use books to center ourselves, like in our home, right? And can I tell you a little story?
Please do.
Okay. So I remember the first time I read your book to Aidyn. We're going through the COVID, the pandemic, and he's in virtual schooling. So I'm working full time, single mom, but no matter your situation, it's hard, right now, and he's virtual schooling. So he was frustrated because he was asked to do a writing assignment on his iPad. And in first grade, they hadn't really learned how to spell or write just yet. And the thing with Aidyn is he always wants to get things right. And he was like having a full out meltdown. And so as I often do in these moments, I walked away from him. I sat on the couch with a book and hoping that he would join. Every time I start reading in hope that he joins. And so your book had just arrived. And so I said, let me pick up this book and read it to him. Right. So I'm just going to, if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to read a couple pages just so I can show you, what it did for us. So it starts, sometimes I feel angry, like my top is going to blow. I mean, that's how he was feeling in a moment, right? Sometimes I feel lonely and I don't know where to go. And what I haven't shared yet is Aidyn's best friend moved away right before school started. So, that was big for him too. I'm just going to skip ahead and it says, sometimes I feel frustrated because I want to get it right so bad. And that's just a few pages, but it's like at that point, he was listening intently. His feelings had been validated. He felt seen. Someone understood. And it was like when I'm working full time or when you guys out there are working full time and your kid is having a meltdown, you're on the brink of a meltdown yourself. Like you don't, you don't have the words that your kid needs in that moment. And this book gave me the words. Through your book, he was able to feel validated, and doing the process, the meditation, really, really brought us back to center. And that was such an awesome moment for us. And that is why I will continue to share this book.
That melts my heart, Quinn. That is the mission, and that is the message. And that is why I continue to spread the word about this book too.
Mm-hmm.
It's the message. And if we dig deeper into the why this book came to be, it's really when it hit me that it needed to be written was when I met someone, an adult, who was so stuck in trauma that had happened in his childhood. And then I'm looking at my nephews, who are my world. They're 9 and 7, and thinking, I mean, kids are going through hard stuff right now with the pandemic. They, just like you said, they're lonely. So there's trauma there, even if you don't have, a big dramatic story of trauma. Their feelings are shifting and things are different. And this grown adult did not have the tools as a child and much less as an adult to be able to process those emotions. And it was keeping him stuck in his life. And I thought, if I can do one thing to give my nephews a tool to be able to get centered at a young age, then how much is that going to magnify as they get older and they go through things that are even harder? So I knew that was the moment that I knew this book had to exist. And so it's amazing, and it blesses me so much to hear stories like yours. And Pablo, who is my 9-year-old nephew, struggles with anxiety on occasion. And he and I were talking about that completely separate from the book. And in that conversation, he referenced the book. He's like, "Oh, I'm just going to take your book with me." Like, cue the waterworks.
Gosh.
That's why it's there. And I also I wanted to give parents in the back a little more insight, because it is a hard concept to guide your children through, walking through all the energy centers in the body.
So I just want to go back to something you said, because Pablo is 9. My son is 6. He'll be 7 soon. And we're talking about just anxiety and things around that. And I was doing some research, before the podcast, and I knew we were going to be discussing your book. And for you parents out there, hearing Jenny's story, hearing my story, just know you're not alone. And it's time the CDC has done some research and compared with 2019, the proportion of mental health related visits for children age 5 to 11 and 12 to 17 has increased 24% and 31% respectively. And so when we're talking about needing tools in order to make sure that our kids are okay now and in the future, because what are some of your worries, out there when it comes to the pandemic and COVID? I know that a lot of the parents I've spoken to are worried about what the future is going to be like with our kids, coming out of this. And we need coping strategies. We do, your children do, for all of the negative emotions that may arise in this time. Ginny.
And as adults, the kids around us, especially if you're a parent, are soaking up your energy too.
Yes.
As much as you think that you're trying to hide it from them and protect them, these kiddos are little sponges, and they can feel it even when we're trying to hide it. So it's so important to, like they say on the airplane, put your mask on first and then help your kid. And I I think that is the same with all of these hard things, the hard emotions that we're feeling. And there's a huge, I think as adults too, it's easy for us to say, you know, we know so many people who are going through a hard time, and it's, especially as women, it's easy to ignore what you're feeling and just let it, you take care of everybody else.
Yeah.
Just your feelings can come last. But it's so important to acknowledge them. It is hard right now.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much, Ginny. Can you tell us a little bit more about the strategies in your book? I know that also, not to make it a complex question, right? But one of the things that you talk about is you want parents to know the value of simple meditation techniques. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So that is a super complex question. And I'm still very much a student of that. And I'm not a scientist, but I'm so fascinated by it. And there are two things I want to mention in that realm. The first is the emotional vibrational scale, or vibrational scale of emotions. You can Google either of those and a million diagrams will pop up for you. But that is that certain emotions vibrate at a lower level. So we're all energy. Everything is made of energy if you drill down into the science of it. And on the lower level are things like frustration and irritation. And I made myself a cheat sheet because I can never remember.
Oh, we love it.
I won't name all of them, but powerlessness, those things are down here. And up here you have emotions like love and joy. And there were I was trying to pick out the ones that struck me in light of kids doing virtual school. Eagerness was one that I thought was interesting. That's up here.
Okay.
Contentment and positivity. And oddly enough, every mom is going to hate me for saying this. You know what's right in the middle, Quinn?
What's that?
Boredom. So if your kid is saying, I'm bored, that's okay. Like, you're hitting the middle. You're not down here. So everybody can have a different outlook on mom on board from now on. But all that to say, it's not about, like, if your little one is feeling frustrated, it's not about getting them from frustrated all the way up to love and joy.
Yeah.
If they can just get one rung up that ladder, one thought that feels better.
Yeah.
Pablo struggles with wanting to do things right all the time as well. I feel like I've been talking about Pablo a lot. I have Issa too, Pablo's younger brother. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if he gets it right. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. I'm envious of that guy because Pablo and I both care too much. But for Aidyn and Pablo, like that, I got it wrong or I lost the race. Well, do you feel like you did your best? Like, you don't have to go to you'll win next time, or just go to one thought that feels better. Did you have fun with your friends? So I feel like, so that is part of it, is working your way up the vibrational scale. And with that, so bringing light in, and this book is not religious, but however you want to identify that light, if you want it to be God, it can be God. If you want it to be sunshine, it can be sunshine. What it's doing is it's calming your nervous system by going through your body, but also all of these thoughts are creating neural pathways in our brain. So when you have those negative feelings and you start thinking bad thoughts, I'm never going to be good enough. I'm not the fastest runner. And they're creating these neural pathways. Well, just like, riding a bike through the sand, you create a path. And if you keep going over that same path and having that same thought, it gets deeper and deeper. And so naturally, that's where the tire is going to go, straight to that path.
Mm-hmm.
So by shifting and choosing one thought that feels better, you're creating new neural pathways. And when you calm the nervous system, you're bringing yourself out of that spiral, because it's that one thought that creates that neural pathway, and you start spiraling down that vibrational scale of emotions, and you start feeling worse, and you have more negative thoughts and hard feelings. So it's the meditation is a visualization that's doing more than one thing. It's calming the nervous system. It's giving them a chance to stop and breathe, but also just to go through. And I talk about, when the light hits a certain area, the positive things that you can do with that area.
Yeah.
All the way to, at the end, sharing the light with your friends, which is so important.
Yes, I agree. Gosh, you gave us so much gold. I can't even begin to
It is so juicy. It makes me want to break out a science book. I love it so much.
So I love the analogy you did between the tire and the road and the pathway. That was really good. And that was just awesome. Thank you so much, Ginny. And I just want to say, books are calming in themselves, but when you pair, books, reading time with a meditation technique, like Ginny has in her book, I feel like you can only win, right? And we talk all the time, and Ginny mentioned it in the beginning, about how we use books as tools. And that's what this group is all about, improving the bonds with our children by using books as a tool. And a lot of times books can be fleeting, right? We pick up a book, we read it, and it's we forget about it. But if we begin to look at books as tools, we find something that's really effective in transforming our home. We can begin to look at books as something that to be referenced, even if, a fiction book or a book, like Jenny's, something to be referenced over and over again in a time, we need to strengthen a bond or to, repair a moment, in our homes. So thank you for this book, Jenny.
Thank you for this conversation.
And for all of you out there listening, so I was delighted to find that there is also a guided meditation for adults in the book as well.
There is. Yes. I think I did that, but 2 reasons. I wanted to help parents better understand the process, but also that meditation in the back is one that I did every day sitting in Houston traffic with my eyes open. But there are sitting in Houston traffic, there are 2 ways you're going to end up at work. And it is frustrated, which is way down here on the vibrational scale.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be at peace and feel joyful. And that's what I would do. I would exactly what's in the book, just send my mind up above the clouds and let the light pour in. And it changed my day. Every single day I reacted to people differently on days that I did the meditation in the car versus days that I just sat in traffic and let it get to me. And my days went smoother. So it's for every age it's applicable.
So thank you, Jenny. I know you guys are going to ask, where do I get this book? And I'm going to put the website up on the screen, but something else that you guys need to know is I was on Jenny's website, and there is actually besides you grabbing the book, because I think it's so important, there's affirmations. You have printables on your site.
Yeah. And I have big plans for those in 2021. Whether they're going to happen the way I have it planned in my head or not is a different story. But if you just put your email address in and download the printables, they've got affirmations. But what that also does is it puts you on my email list. So whether I'm planning on doing more mindful books, but also I want to share other mindful resources with parents.
Mm-hmm.
So, wherever this ends up going, and my hope and my plan is to also provide more printables with affirmations, because that's so soothing, right? Coloring,
Yeah.
you want to color the affirmations too. So that is my plan, is to, it will put you on a list to make you the recipient of more mindful tools. That's the goal with mindfulkids.me.
Awesome. So let me see here. I was going to go and see if there were any questions. And I hope my streaming is happening well. I'm wondering if
we're live.
What'd you say?
It says we're live. I'm just trusting.
Just trusting Facebook, right? That's
Right.
what we do. We just trust it, to work. Just give me 1 second. Thank you all for your patience. I appreciate it. Okay, because I wasn't seeing comments on my end, so I wanted to make sure that the comments were coming through. So Linda says, "Rise up out of frustration." Good stuff, Jenny.
Love it.
Yeah. Somebody said, "Do you use music with meditation?"
That's a great question. Sometimes I do, and I actually prefer music.
Okay.
And even Spotify has some great just instrumental meditation music. And another good resource for grown-ups is Insight Timer, which is an app. So you can set a timer and meditate in silence, or you can do a guided meditation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are y'all with me?
We good?
I'm having some difficulties trying to see these comments. I know you guys are with me. Thank you so much for your patience. Amy says she uses books to center herself as well. And there's just so many comments, just enjoying the dialogue that we're having and all of the gold that you dropped.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I'm hopeful, Quinn. As you can tell, this is something that is my passion. Yeah. Not just for the kids, but for the adults and all the amazing things that meditation does for our body. And I actually just got my meditation teacher certification.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to provide more tools, and I'll keep you posted so you can keep everybody posted or come back and comment on this. I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet, but I'm so happy to answer any questions or provide any resources for anyone to learn about meditation.
Thank you. So Catherine wants to know if you have any tips for ADHD kids.
That is not my specialty, but I do have experience in there. And in my best experience, and I would imagine this is especially true with virtual school, is to keep them moving. So and I do this for myself, by my desk, I have a fitness ball chair, so that when I'm in a meeting or even typing, I'm bouncing a little and moving. And I think, especially for virtual school, for the kiddos and the grown-ups, it's so important to take breaks.
Yeah, it is.
It's easy to forget too. And it's easy to think, oh, I'm going to take a break and walk to the kitchen to get a snack, when really you need to do a couple laps around the house.
You just empowered me to say something, because a lot of parents, especially moms, feel a lot of guilt around taking breaks with virtual schooling. And I was having a lot of trouble in the beginning with virtual schooling with Aidyn. And I just want to empower you all, like my mom empowered me, because she said to me, just talk to his teacher and see how they feel about breaks, because Aidyn was having a really hard time. And I talked to his teacher. She said, take as many breaks as you need. If you feel like, there's a day or a class that, he can't do it, if he needs 5 10 minutes, just take it. She said, don't feel any type of way about needing a break, because this is a time that we all need to be flexible and forgiving. And this is different. Everybody is, going through their own thing, no matter the situation. So
it is.
Don't be afraid to take breaks. Everybody, listen, please.
And it is, my heart goes out to the moms with the ADHD kids right now too, because I think that's especially hard. It's so hard, even if the content is good and even if the content is changing, it's so hard to be staring at the same screen all day.
Yeah.
I think those guys especially, it's take the breaks and keep them moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So true. So Ginny, is there anything else on your heart that you want to share about this book?
I'm just so excited to be here. And Quinn, I'm so excited that you have such a unique gift of curating books and putting together these curated lists of resources for parents. So really, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for doing this podcast, and thank you for digging in and exploring the books that are out there and presenting them not just as a good story or a good read, but as a tool.
Yes. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you so much. So we'll put the link for the book in the comments. All the resources that Ginny shared with us, we'll put those out there as well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
For having me.
For all of you watching, for those of you in the group, we can continue the conversation in the comments if you have any questions. Have a great night, everybody. And as Aidyn would say, who is upstairs making so much noise right now, keep reading, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.